Welcome to Business in USA. Today we take a look at purchase order funding for tenders. Getting a contract for a big order can be a great deal for your business. You will get a large amount of money for the order, which will help your business grow. In South Africa, big orders from the government are called tenders. If you don't have enough money to fulfill the tender, you will have to apply for purchase order funding or tender financing. Purchase order funding is a type of funding instrument that helps businesses fulfill large orders. Purchase order funding helps businesses fulfill their large orders although they are facing temporary cash flow issues. For small businesses and entrepreneurs, finding the capital to complete larger orders can be quite challenging. Some don't get funding because they have no assets to attach for funding, and some it's because the contractor is not verified by some lenders. Advantages and disadvantages of purchase order funding. Purchase order funding can, sometimes, be the difference between you fulfilling a large order and not being able to. Advantages of purchase order funding. The benefits of this funding instrument are many. Some of the benefits of purchase order funding include: allows you to secure the materials needed for your order. Allows you to pay for any additional labor needed for your order. Gives a significant boost to your company's cash flow. The funding can give you a competitive advantage over your competitors. It allows you to fulfill larger orders than your other competitors. By getting purchase order funding and fulfilling your orders, you will build trust with your clients and potential clients. Purchase order funding is great for businesses, especially those who are too small to fulfill larger orders. However, there are also some downsides to purchase order funding. Disadvantages of purchase order funding. Some of the disadvantages of purchase order funding include: although purchase order funding doesn't typically have interest rates, most lenders charge upfront fees. Fees vary depending on the lender and the size of the order. In some cases, you have to sell your clients invoices to get purchase order funding. This can create distrust between you and your client. Purchase order funding is not a long-term solution and will not be suitable for any long-term financing requirements. Not all businesses will get purchase order funding, especially startups and those with bad credit. Before you apply for purchase order funding, consider the above pros and cons. If there are more pros for you, then apply, but if there are more cons, then you might need to think a little more before applying. How to qualify for purchase order funding. There are a few things your business will need to have before you can qualify for purchase order funding. Some of the requirements for purchase order funding include: your business needs to have a tight cash flow. Your business needs to be a distributor, outsourcer, reseller, or wholesaler. You must have a trading history of at least 1 year, 12 months. Your business's revenue must be at least over $500K. The creditworthiness of your customer, issuer of the contract, must be good. The delivery date of the order must be reasonable, typically within 60 days. Most lenders require that the supplier, where you get the materials for the order, must be VAT registered. Your gross profit margin must be above a certain percentage of the purchase order. These are just the requirements you typically have to meet to qualify for purchase order funding. If there are some that you do not meet, you need to fix them before you apply for funding. Apply for purchase order funding. If you have gotten approved for a tender, you need to apply for funding immediately to ensure you meet the delivery deadline. Below are a few organizations that offer purchase order funding. National Empowerment Fund, NEF. The NEF has a funding program for tender financing called procurement finance. The funding product is aimed at assisting Black-owned small to medium-sized enterprises get funding for tenders or contracts. Some key features of the procurement finance product include: NEF funding is limited to $10 million. The business applying must have active participation by Black individuals. Minimum Black ownership must be 51%. Funding instruments include term loans, bridging finance, asset finance, revolving facilities, and debt finance. NEF awards procurement financing to contracts awarded by reputable entities. Funding is not granted to subcontracts awarded by agents and entities with a weak financial position and lacking track record. The contract must be commercially viable and generate sufficient profits and cash flow for repayment purposes. Thanks for watching. That is all for today.